All right, ready to dive into something kind of interesting. We're tackling a question that I think we've all thought about at some point. Is talent a myth? Like, are we born with it, or is it something we can actually develop?
Definitely a head scratcher.
Totally. And today we're taking a deep dive into an episode of the Hops Design podcast. Their guest, Dimitris, had a really interesting take on this whole talent debate.
Yeah, he kind of brought it from a philosophical angle, talking about something called dialectical materialism.
It sounds kind of intimidating, right?
It might, but stick with us. It gets good.
It really does. Basically, Dimitris says that talent isn't this fixed thing, not some magical gift you've either got or you don't. It's about our experiences, the environment we're in, and how we react to those things.
It's more like, instead of just saying, oh, they're a natural, we should be asking, well, what experiences actually shaped that natural ability?
Totally. Like what happened along the way. And you know what? This really challenges how we usually think about talent.
For sure. Challenges that fixed mindset. A lot of us have the idea that some people are just born gifted. Instead of that, it makes you think about how our abilities actually develop. It's a process.
Right. And to illustrate this whole thing, Dimitris uses a pretty surprising example. Michael Jordan, basketball legend. We all know the name, right?
Oh, yeah?
But get this, Jordan got cut from his high school basketball team. Cut.
Seriously. Hard to imagine considering, well, everything.
I know, right? It seems impossible. But that's where Dimitris's argument gets really interesting. It wasn't that Jordan just had this hidden talent that magically appeared one day. It was how he reacted to that setback, use it as fuel.
Turn it into a positive.
Exactly. He took that rejection and turned it into pure drive, practicing constantly, always trying to improve. And that's a perfect example of the whole dialectical process thing.
Yeah, it's not a straight line from talent to success. There are bumps along the way. It's like the thesis, antithesis, and synthesis. So the thesis was Jordan getting cut from the team. The antithesis was his intense dedication and practice. And finally, the synthesis, Michael Jordan, the icon, emerges.
And the best part is, this isn't just about basketball. This whole dialectical process, it applies to so many things in life.
It's universal.
Totally. It shows us that setbacks, those moments we doubt ourselves, those can actually be huge opportunities for growth. We just have to look at them that way.
It all comes down to how we see things, our mindset. We're not stuck with a fixed amount of potential. It's always developing, always changing based on what we do, how we respond to challenges, and how we interact with the world around us.
Okay, so say we're on board with this, that talent is less about what we're born with and more about how we grow. How does that change how we approach learning something new or building a skill? How do we create the right environment for that talent to develop?
That's the million-dollar question, and Dimitris definitely gets into that. He talks about how crucial our mindset is, like we've got to embrace challenges instead of running from them. And then there's something else that he says is super important, but people don't always talk about.
That's access, right?
Bingo. Access to resources, to opportunities, even just having the time and space to practice. Dimitris says that stuff makes a huge difference in how we develop our abilities.
And he's not just talking about fancy stuff like expensive equipment or private lessons, right?
He's talking about the whole environment, our support system, having people who believe in us.
Yeah.
That saying, it takes a village to raise a child. Well, it's kind of the same idea here. It takes a village to cultivate talent.
Okay, so break down this village thing for us. What does that actually look like when we're talking about talent?
That's where things get really interesting. Because, see, Dimitris says we can't think about our own personal journeys, our own dialectics in a vacuum. Everything around us influences us, socioeconomic factors, access to good education, even just having the chance to practice without stressing about basic needs.
So someone who grew up with music lessons, sports teams, all those after-school programs, they're starting off in a totally different village than someone who didn't have those opportunities.
Exactly. And it's not that people from less advantaged backgrounds can't achieve amazing things, because we know they do. But it makes you wonder, how do we make things more equal for everyone? Everyone deserves the chance to discover their talents. Those early experiences, they can be so impactful, trying new things, having someone to guide you.
It's almost like talent is this spark inside us, this potential, and the village is what provides the fuel, the right conditions for that spark to become something amazing. And if those elements are missing,
then some people's potential never has a chance. And that's a loss for everybody, not just that individual. Think about all the amazing ideas, the incredible art we might miss out on because the right village wasn't there.
Yeah, and that's kind of a heavy thought, right? Makes you think about our own responsibility in all of this. If we want to see more people reach their full potential, it's not enough to just wait around hoping talent will magically appear.
Definitely not.
We have to help build those supportive villages that help it grow.
And I think Dimitris would say it's even bigger than just like funding schools or giving people resources.
It's about changing the whole culture around it.
Exactly. We need a culture where people value growth, where effort and dedication are celebrated. And we have to break down those barriers that hold some people back, you
So
know?
that everyone's not just starting at the same point, they're actually running on the same track too.
Now you've got it. It's
Yeah.
about creating a fair shot for everybody, no matter where they come from or what their circumstances are.
Makes you think. So let's bring it back to that big question. Is talent a myth? After hearing Dimitris's take, I don't think there's an easy answer.
Nope, it's conjugated.
It really is. Dimitris wants us to move past this whole yes or no thing about talent.
Are you born with it or not? It's too simple.
Way too simple. He gives us a totally different way to look at it, and it's actually pretty hopeful.
It is.
We all have the potential to do incredible things, but we need the right support, the right environment to make it happen.
Yeah, and talent isn't this like set thing. It's
Yeah.
constantly changing, constantly growing throughout our lives.
It's a journey. So, as you're thinking about all of this, here's something to consider. What about your village? How has your environment shaped you? And how can you contribute to making the world a place where everyone's talents have the chance to flourish? Thanks for joining us for this deep dive, everybody.